So guys, in this next news story, evidence gathered by murder detectives has resulted in 3 people being convicted of killing a man on his doorstep in Tower Hamlets. Iron Miah, who's 40, was attacked on the 19th of November 2019 in Nelson Street in E1 and died in hospital 2 days later from a catastrophic brain injury. Officers carried out painstaking work using cell site data following the discovery of burner phones with key evidence of communication between the killers. The team also identified a source who inserted himself into the investigation and provided false intelligence, who later turned out to be one of the men responsible for Iron's murder. Detective Chief Inspector David Wellham said, "My team have worked tirelessly over a long period of time to ensure that Iron's family could receive the justice they deserve. This was a deliberate and callous act of violence in a residential area. Nobody deserves to be the victim of such brutality, and the 3 people convicted today will undoubtedly spend a significant time in jail. Our streets are safer without these people at large." I would like to pay tribute to Iron's family, who have been extremely supportive of the investigation in the face of a long road to justice while living with the trauma of losing a loved one. So the 3 were convicted of the murder of Iron Miah at the Old Bailey on Tuesday, 4 years after he was shot at his doorstep in Tower Hamlets. Mohammed Ali, who's 31, of Dagenham, Antonio Afflick-McLeod, who's 32, of Ilford, and Aaron Campbell, who's 32, of Fulham, will be sentenced on, next Tuesday. Following Iron's shooting, detectives immediately began an investigation which led to 5 people being charged, and unusually, it took 3 trials. Crucially, the murder squad detectives were able to track the communications that linked the defendants to the killing, despite the group's extensive and deliberate use of disposable burner phones to communicate with each other. In the days after the murder, Ali made a number of calls to police providing false intelligence. Once charged and remanded, he also encouraged a prison officer at AMP Belmarsh to tell police lies in order to implicate one of his co-defendants. It is this that collapsed the second trial in 2022. So in the days leading up to the murder, Iron's family described how he had been receiving a series of messages on his phone that were making him anxious. On the night of his murder, he had returned home at around 10 o'clock and then received a call from Mohammed Ali. After the call, he went out and got into a Honda Civic on Nelson Street and spoke to the occupants. Upon leaving the Honda, he then sent a message on his phone saying, "Viewing done," to Mohammed Ali. As he was walking back to his house after visiting a local shop, a man got out of the passenger door of a parked Volkswagen Polo and approached him from behind. The gunman fired a single shot and the bullet struck Iron in the head. So the court heard that Miah was convicted of conspiracy to supply Class A drugs back in 2014, and he was released from prison in 2019, 7 months before his murder. The evidence suggested that on his release, he had gone back to his old ways, the prosecutor said, and one of the suspects in his murder had claimed to police that Miah had owed someone £500,000. The prosecutor said if that is right, someone somewhere might have wanted something done about it. The prosecutor said the prosecution alleged that in the time that the passenger was out of the car, he had run towards Iron Miah and then shot him in the head. This is what you might think a most brutal execution, and one which appears to have involved a certain amount of planning. And Mohammed Ali, one of the guys who got done for the murder, had tricked Miah into leaving his house by getting him to inspect something in the Honda Civic car. The prosecutor said it was most likely drugs. The prosecutor said one consequence of such a ruse would be that anyone lying in wait to shoot Iron Miah dead would be able to get a good look at him. At trial, only one of the defendants, whose Ali, gave evidence, and he accepted being present at the murder scene, but said he was only involved in setting up a drug deal. So once Iron was shot in the head, the gunman returned to the VW Polo and drove off, followed by the Honda Civic that Iron had visited. The VW Polo was on false plates and it's never been recovered, and the police told the court that Antonio Afflick-McLeod and Aaron Campbell were believed to be the men in the Polo. The gun used was also never recovered, but when Afflick-McLeod was arrested, drugs and sawn-off shotgun were found at his home. On the day before Iron's murder around R4, a man bought a SIM card from a convenience store in Barking. Officers seized the CCTV and identified Afflick-McLeod by a tattoo on his neck. The SIM was crucial in the evidence and linked him to communications with Ali. Evidence such as this convinced a jury of the group's guilt. Victor Bujko, who's 30, appeared in custody at Barking Magistrates Court, and she was a prison guard at HMP Belmarsh at the same time as the three defendants. She gave false information to police and pleaded guilty to perverting the course of justice. Just want to say rest in peace, Iron Miah, and my condolences go out to your family. So guys, last night, one of the subscribers who follows on YouTube, good lad, always, positive and showing love in the comments, contacted me about a tragic incident that's occurred in Pakistan over the last couple of nights. And he actually DM'd me and he said, look, brother, I've never asked you for anything, but please can you shed some light on this story, as this person involved is a family friend and they want justice. And I thought to myself, you know what, you're a good lad. This is the least I can do for you. In this next tragic story, a Rochdale man has been shot dead in Pakistan whilst on his way to surprise family members living in the country. Father of two, Tasarruf Hussain, may he rest in peace, an overseas British Kashmiri, was visiting his homeland when he was brutally shot and killed after leaving Islamabad airport on Wednesday. His relatives have now set up a petition urging the government in Pakistan to look into what they're calling a disturbing trend targeting overseas Kashmiris and Pakistanis. Relatives of the man who passed away have said that his life was cut short in an act of senseless violence that could have been prevented with proper supervision and security measures on commonly travelled routes. They said that the MPs have written to the High Commissioner of Pakistan to the UK, Mr. Mohammed Faisal, requesting that the death of Mr. Hussain is urgently looked into to ensure the murderers are brought to justice and to outline what measures will be taken so the safety of those travelling in the region. The statement also went on to say, our family is mourning the tragic loss of a loved one, Tasarruf Hussain, an overseas British Kashmiri from Rochdale in Greater Manchester, who was visiting his homeland to surprise his family, was brutally shot and killed on his way home just after leaving Islamabad airport. This heartbreaking incident is not isolated. It's part of a disturbing trend targeting overseas Kashmiris, Pakistanis. Our relative, a loving father of two children and a husband to a grieving widow, is just one among many victims. His life was cut short in an act of senseless violence that could have been prevented with proper supervision and security measures on commonly travelling routes. They went on to say, we are calling upon our MP Tony Lloyd and the government of Pakistan to make immediate action. We urge them to conduct a thorough investigation into the murder and bring the perpetrators to justice swiftly. Moreover, we implore them to implement stricter security measures for those travelling within the region, and the plea isn't about our family, it's about all families who live in fear for their loved ones visiting their homeland. It's time for change. We need actions that will ensure safety for all overseas British, Kashmiris, Pakistanis when they visit their home. So I spoke to a few mates to find out what the sketch is, and basically the flights, they land in the dead of night, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and then to go from Islamabad airport to Kashmir can take 2 to 3 hours. And in the dead of night on rural roads, there's no street lighting, pitch black, rocks in the road, visibility is probably 5-10 meters. And what they've said is people just out of nowhere pop out. Some even dress up as cops and they'll stop your car and then they'll jack you. So guys, it's a real sad story, and I just want to say rest in peace, Mr. Hussain. My condolences go out to your family. So guys, there's a couple of news stories. It's your boy GT. Keep it locked, keep it real.